The napkin hit the ground with a soft slap right at my feet. Not dropped, delivered. Aubrey didn't even glance down. She just tilted her head, lifted her mimosa, and said it louder than she needed to. "Keep it clean, old lady." The air around the courtyard tables stalled. Forks paused. The cart boy, mid-pour at the drink station, blinked like he wasn't sure if he'd misheard. I didn't look at her. Instead, I bent down slowly. Knees stiff. Back held straight, not out of pride, but discipline, the kind of posture you learn when life insists on teaching you how to endure without help. I reached for the napkin. Linen, off-white, barely used. I folded it in half, then again. Then once more until it fit small and square in my palm, a ritual I hadn't forgotten. I rose just as slowly, straightening every vertebra with care. My hands didn't shake. I wouldn't give her that. Not here. Not in front of them. Aubrey was already mid-turn, whispering something to Jason as they headed toward the shaded tables. Her laugh sparkled, rehearsed and empty. Jason said nothing. Eva stood nearby with her HOA clipboard, pretending to review her forms. But I saw the way she froze when the words landed. Her pen hovered, unmoving. No one said a thing. Not to her. Not for me. I held the folded napkin for a long moment before slipping it into my apron pocket, just beside my own cloth, the blue one I always carried. That one had meaning. This one had memory. The brunch buffet was already filling up. Platters of fruit, bowls of salad too leafy for anyone to really enjoy, and those tiny rolls that looked pretty but tasted like stale regret. I had helped prepare the layout, set up tables, trimmed the edges of the linen runners with pinking shears so they wouldn't fray under the breeze. None of that mattered. One insult undid it all. Jason hadn't met my eyes when they arrived. He never does when Aubrey's at his side. There was a time he'd grin the moment he spotted me, big, bright, reckless with love. But now, he hovered behind her like a misplaced accessory, only speaking when prompted. I wiped my palms on my apron and turned back toward the drink station. The cart boy didn't say anything, but his eyes darted toward me and then away, like he didn't want to be caught witnessing, which of course meant he had. I took my place by the lemonade dispenser. It was where people could come and not have to talk, where I could stay visible but unimportant. I poured a glass, then didn't drink it. Aubrey laughed again, loud, polished, the kind of sound that makes people look. Jason chuckled softly beside her. The sound had no spine. Eva circled the tables, checking items off her sheet. She didn't come near me. There are worse things than being ignored. Being erased, for instance. Or reduced to background. Aubrey had a way of doing that with precision. Not loudly, that would require effort, but with small gestures. Dismissals disguised as charm. Commands delivered like compliments. She was the kind of woman who spoke as if the world was waiting for her next opinion. And Jason, well, he was the kind of man who let her. 20 minutes into the brunch, a gust of wind lifted the corners of a few napkins. I stepped forward instinctively to catch one, an old habit, baked in from years of service, motherhood, and hosting. Aubrey saw it. She smirked, then leaned toward Eva. She really does think she's still the lady of the house. Eva didn't answer, but she didn't correct her either. That was the part that stung. After cleanup, I returned home alone. Jason had offered a limp goodbye. Aubrey didn't bother. She brushed imaginary lint from her blouse and walked ahead of him toward the car. Back in the kitchen, I unpacked my apron. The blue cloth folded with creases still crisp went into the drawer by the sink. The napkin? I held it one last time, then slid it into the drawer where I kept the warranty for the house, the extra key for the HOA lockbox, and the original deed I never told them I kept. Some women tear things apart. Some fold them and wait. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I just remembered. The napkin was still in my pocket when I got home. I didn't take it out right away. I didn't touch anything, really. Just walked through the front door, closed it behind me, and stood there in the silence. A silence that had started to feel permanent, like wallpaper I never asked for. I should have been angry. Maybe I was. But that emotion was too loud for what I felt. No, what I felt was lower. Slower. Something that moved in the bones. Not fire, but frost. I walked into the kitchen, set my apron on the chair. The blue cloth I always carried had slipped halfway out the side pocket, still folded, still clean. It sat next to me. Familiar. Mine. I touched it absently. Then I reached into the other pocket and pulled out the napkin she'd dropped, the one I'd folded at her feet in front of Eva and the boy who wasn't paid enough to look shocked. I laid both cloths side by side on the counter. One was mine, the other a message, and both were folded. Not torn, not crumpled, not thrown back, just folded. That's the part Aubrey never understood. Folding is an act of restraint, of composure, of knowing you could tear something in half and choosing not to. Yet, I busied myself the way women like me always do, hands in motion, mind elsewhere. I wiped the counter, rinsed a spoon that didn't need rinsing, refolded the dish towel even though it already lay straight. It wasn't about cleaning, it was about staying upright. When Jason was a child, he once spilled orange juice on the rug during breakfast. He was 6, started to cry the second the glass hit the floor. Not because of the mess, but because he knew how hard I'd worked to make things just right. I remember kneeling beside him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "It's not the mess," I told him. "It's how you clean it." He nodded through tears and helped me blot the stain. He remembered that lesson once, until she taught him to forget. I made tea, jasmine, loose leaf, the kind Aubrey never touched, not even when she was sick. She said it reminded her of laundry water. That was how she put it. Like my habits were soft and provincial. She didn't understand the care inside quiet rituals. Or maybe she did, and that's why she broke them. I poured a cup, sat at the table, and stared at the folded napkins. One from me, one from her. The blue cloth, 30 years of domestic labor in its threads. The white linen, 10 seconds of humiliation in front of neighbors. Same shape, very different weight. My hands moved before my thoughts caught up. I took the blue cloth and wrapped it around the white one, layer by layer, seam over seam, not tightly, just enough to hold. I placed the bundle in the drawer by the sink, not the main one, the drawer for things I wasn't ready to throw away but no longer wanted to see. And just like that, the moment was filed away. Not forgotten. Catalogued. I looked around the kitchen, everything still in its place, the clock ticking steadily, the cabinets humming their usual wooden silence. But something had shifted. Not in the room. In me. Later that evening, Jason texted, "Sorry about earlier. She didn't mean it like that. It is where Graham. Didn't mean it like what? Didn't mean for it to land in front of Eva? In front of the HOA cart boy? Didn't mean to erase me so cleanly it made people flinch?" I didn't respond. There was nothing left to say in short sentences. Instead, I wrote something down, just a date and a location. Then I folded the paper. Neatly. 3 creases. I placed it next to the folded napkin bundle in the drawer. I didn't plan to use it. Not yet. That night, I dreamt of the house before Jason met her. The sound of bike tires on the driveway. The sun coming through the kitchen window in long stripes. The way he used to ask me to fold his shirts with the arms tucked in tight, like store ones, he'd say. He used to notice those things. He used to see me. In the morning, I opened the drawer. Just to check. The bundle of cloth was still there. Still folded. That was good. That meant I still had time. The roast was perfect. It should have been. I'd seasoned it the night before. Let it sit in a marinade of rosemary, garlic, and crushed mustard seeds. The kitchen had smelled warm all morning, like memory, if memory had weight, but now the scent felt like a performance, like I'd prepared a play no one would clap for. The table was set for 3. I laid the napkins carefully, the blue ones, of course, folded just so, into small, silent triangles. It didn't matter that Aubrey didn't appreciate them. It mattered that they were there, that they were clean, creased, controlled. I placed one at her seat anyway. The gesture wasn't for her. It was a message to myself. I was still here, still capable of care, still exact. They arrived 20 minutes late. Jason knocked once before stepping inside. He always did that now, that half-courtesy of a guest who used to be family. Aubrey didn't knock. She never had. Her heels clacked across the hardwood like punctuation. She entered the kitchen like someone inspecting a property she already owned. Her nose twitched. "Oh," she said, pausing just long enough to make it a judgment. "Smells like vinegar?" I didn't answer. Not because I didn't hear, but because not answering had become a strategy. Jason gave a small, apologetic smile. The kind of smile that asks forgiveness without committing to who it's for. Aubrey glanced at the table. "I don't eat red meat anymore," she said, pulling out her chair. "Did Jason not tell you?" She didn't say it with spite. She said it with performance indifference, as if the inconvenience wasn't hers. Jason sat, slowly, avoided my eyes. "It's roast," I said. "I've made it the same way since he was 12. I didn't say for him. I didn't say because he loved it. I just said what was true. Aubrey didn't respond. She adjusted the napkin at her place setting, then set it aside. Didn't use it. We ate in silence. Or, close enough. Jason tried to stir the air with safe topics, HOA drama, a neighbor's new car, an offer at work he hadn't accepted yet. Aubrey scrolled through her phone between bites, humming once, sighing twice. She pushed her plate forward when she'd picked through the carrots. "This glaze is sharp?" she said. I nodded. "It's the vinegar. It cuts the fat." She smiled like I'd just confirmed a mistake. Jason sipped his water and looked toward the window. Anything but the table. Halfway through the meal, she sneezed. Then again. She dabbed at her nose with the napkin she'd rejected earlier, wrinkled her face. "It smells like an antique store in here, dust and old perfume." It wasn't the smell that offended her. It was the evidence of history, the scent of something that existed before her. When the meal was over, she stood without offering help. "I'll wait in the car." Jason lingered. "I'll help clean." But I shook my head. "You've done enough. En rest." His eyes widened slightly, as if he hadn't expected me to say it. Then he turned and followed her out. The front door shut, with a soft finality. Back in the kitchen I scraped the plates one by one. Quiet work, familiar, but the sounds were louder now. Every fork clink, every scrape of roast left untouched, echoed. I poured the untouched tea down the sink, washed the glasses, dried the blue napkins. All except hers. That one barely touched, lightly creased I left out. Just sitting there, between used dishes and my own folded cloth, like an imposter that didn't know where to belong. I picked it up last. Folded it. Once. Twice. A third time. But this time, the fold didn't feel like forgiveness. It felt like storage, like placing something into archive. I placed it beside the bundle in the drawer, the other napkin, the note with the date, the blue cloth. A collection now, each piece a sentence in a language only I spoke. Later that night, Jason sent another message. "Sorry again, she just gets like that, you know how she is." I read it twice, then deleted it. I made another cup of tea but didn't drink it. Let the steam rise and disappear, let it ghost its way through the kitchen while the house settled around me. The roast cooled on the stove. The scent lingered in the curtains. But it wasn't warmth anymore. It was residue. Evidence. The next morning, I opened the drawer again. Checked the bundle. Napkin. Cloth. Paper. All still there. Waiting. Folded. Everything I needed. Not for today. Not yet. But soon. She dropped it again. Same sound. Same weight. Aubrey's linen napkin, this one smeared with the faint shimmer of her lipstick, floated down and landed in front of my gardening shoes like a white flag she never meant to wave. Only she wasn't surrendering. She was staking claim. Above me, she smiled without looking. "Keep it clean, old lady. Thank you for watching. And today you and many fing." The phrase didn't sting anymore. Not like before, because now I understood. She was predictable. She needed an audience. She needed witnesses. And today, she had two. Eva from the HOA stood to the left, clipboard tucked tight to her chest. She flinched just slightly when the napkin hit the concrete. Her pen paused. Her mouth didn't move. To the right, the cart boy unloading bagels from the van froze mid-stack. Jason was halfway down the walkway, close enough to hear, but far enough to pretend he didn't. I didn't speak. I crouched, not slowly this time, not cautiously. Just efficiently. My knees bent, my spine straight. I reached down, took the napkin, and folded it. Once. Twice. A third time. Same motion as always, but now it wasn't service. It was documentation. Aubrey turned away, already mid-laugh with someone at the buffet. Her cruelty was casual now. She didn't even look back. That was fine. It meant she wasn't watching me keep the record. Jason slowed his step, gave me that look, the one that tried to apologize and disappear at the same time. He opened his mouth, closed it, then passed by with a nod that didn't mean anything. Eva approached, slower than usual. She didn't say, "I'm sorry." She didn't say anything. She glanced at my hand, at the napkin, folded, at my apron, then back up to my face. Our eyes met. She blinked, looked down at her clipboard, pretended to write something, and walked away. Which was fine, too. Some people can't carry what they witness. After the brunch, I returned home and opened the drawer. Not the silverware drawer, the one beneath it. My archive. I placed the newly folded napkin beside the others, the white one from the HOA courtyard, the half-used one from last week's roast. The cloth from my apron, the blue one, still lay folded at the bottom like a quiet witness. I added a note. Small square paper. Today's date. Location. Walkway. Witnesses. Eva. Cartboy. Line spoken. Keep it clean, old lady. Then I folded the paper. Same as the napkin. 3 times. I wasn't angry. I was building a record. That evening, Jason texted. She's stressed, the baby stuff, the HOA brunch. She didn't mean anything by it. That was the second time he'd used the word mean, as if meaning something mattered more than doing it. I didn't reply. Some responses aren't owed. Some are earned eventually. I stood by the kitchen window and watched the neighbor's dog chase birds through the yard. The lavender I trimmed last week was blooming again. Quietly. Resilient. I thought about the napkins in the drawer, how soft they felt once folded, how quiet they became, how many more I could stack before anyone noticed. Later, I walked the house alone, straightened a frame, smoothed a pillow, replaced a light bulb in the guest room that no one ever stayed in. Every small act was mine, every crease, every corner, still mine, still under control. They think I'm being quiet because I've surrendered. They don't understand. Some women fold things to hide them. I fold to remember. Jason stopped by alone. Aubrey was tired. Her word, not his. She always seemed tired when chores needed doing or apologies loomed. He brought a coffee, the kind he used to get me on Sundays, back when he remembered the difference between cream and milk. This one had almond milk and a dome lid. Too sweet, too cold. Thought you might need a pick-me-up, he said. I smiled politely and didn't drink it. We walked the yard like strangers, pretending to remember something warm. He asked about the lavender again. I told him it bloomed early. He nodded like it was news. We didn't talk about the brunch, or the napkin, or the phrase she'd hurled loud enough for birds to scatter. Instead, we circled around the words the way some people walk the perimeter of a crime scene, unwilling to look directly inside. Back in the house, I offered him leftovers, roast, reheated, still good. He declined, said he had a lunch meeting. His eyes shifted around the kitchen, not like he missed it, but like he was counting ghosts, like something in him remembered being here but didn't know where to sit anymore. I asked about work. He gave short answers. When I asked if Aubrey was still working from home, he shrugged. She's adjusting. Adjusting to what? Marriage? Ownership? Erasing the woman who raised the man she married? But I didn't ask, because silence is its own kind of contract. After he left, I cleaned the kitchen again. Not because it was dirty, because order has weight when the world slips crooked. As I wiped the counter, my sleeve caught the edge of a drawer, the old one, the one I'd started using for the archive. It slid open an inch. I didn't look inside. I already knew what was in there. Folded napkins, dated notes, a memory ledger written in cloth and silence. That night I opened the file cabinet in the back room, the one Jason never liked digging through. He used to call it the vault. Too many papers, too many folders. I always knew where everything was. Tucked inside a plastic sleeve was the original copy of the deed, signed, dated, notarized. My name. Then his, never hers. I stared at it for a long time, not with nostalgia, but with the kind of calm that settles just before something shifts. The paper was creased, slightly from being folded too long ago, but the ink hadn't faded, neither had the meaning. I placed the deed on the kitchen counter. Next to it, the latest napkin, the white one from the walkway. Then I folded the napkin one final time, tight, flat, precise. I pressed it against the edge of the paper not to damage it, but to draw a line. One cloth, one contract, both folded. I didn't plan anything out loud. I didn't write it down. But something inside me signed a clause that night, a silent agreement, with myself, that what had been mine in spirit would not be stolen in name. The next morning I called the notary's office. Just a question about joint asset reviews. Routine, I said. No urgency. Just clarification. They didn't ask why. They never do when your voice is even and your tone is quiet. Jason texted later. Thanks for chatting. I know she's a lot sometimes. She doesn't mean to be rude, just overwhelmed. It was his third apology in 8 days. All without using the word sorry. I didn't reply. Because he was no longer apologizing to me. He was apologizing to the woman who folded his childhood into neat lunches, pressed uniforms, and sat front row at the one violin recital he almost skipped. And she no longer accepted blank gestures. That evening, I placed the deed back into the cabinet. Not hidden. Just filed. Beside it, I slid in a folder labeled, Collins, Primary Assets, Legacy. Jason would see it one day. Or maybe he wouldn't. Either way, it would be there. Waiting. Folded. Named. Some women scream. Some leave. I fold. I catalog. And I remember. It happened over salad. Spinach, goat cheese, toasted walnuts, the kind of lunch Aubrey insisted she preferred, though I never saw her finish a full plate. They arrived unannounced. Jason claimed it was spontaneous. We were in the area. I knew better. Surprise visits are only spontaneous when they come from love. Aubrey set her purse on the table like she'd brought paperwork to review. Her sunglasses stayed perched atop her head like she wasn't fully indoors yet, like she didn't plan to stay long. Don't fuss, she said. We've only got an hour. So I didn't fuss. I served the salad, poured the lemon water, kept my movements calm, measured the way you do when you're waiting for someone to show their hand. Halfway through lunch, Jason excused himself to take a call. That's when it happened. Aubrey leaned back in her chair and dabbed at her mouth with one of the blue napkins. Mine, folded neatly at her place. She held it between 2 fingers, looked at it, and gave a soft, amused sigh. You still fold these, she said. That's cute. I didn't answer. She smiled at her own comment, the kind people say when they want to seem harmless, but leave bruises just the same. Then she folded the napkin once. Sloppy. Careless. She dropped it on the table, next to her fork. I told Jason he should just move the paperwork to my name. Simplifies everything. All this legacy stuff is exhausting. She said it casually, like she was talking about switching a phone plan. Like my name had already been erased, and she just hadn't gotten around to finalizing it. I didn't flinch, didn't blink. But I looked at the napkin half-folded, wrinkled, abandoned. Something inside me unfolded, too. She went on, swirling her water. Families are always complicated after a certain age. People get attached to routines. Routines. She meant me. She always meant me. And that was her mistake. What she didn't realize, or perhaps didn't care to remember, was that paperwork isn't just paper. It's memory, notarized. And I still held the original. Jason returned, flustered from the call. Work drama, he said. A client's pushing for the renovation budget early. Aubrey stood, already done with her salad. We should head out, she said. Can't be late for your mom's thing later. Jason hesitated. My mom's thing? You know, the memorial planning? Her voice faltered half a beat. She'd said too much. Jason blinked. We're not supposed to talk about that until next month. Oh, Aubrey said lightly, like she'd dropped a pen. Right. I must have mixed it up. But I saw it. The slip. The crack. The moment she spoke ahead of the plan. Jason didn't notice. Or pretended not to. But I did. And so did Eva. Eva had come by earlier to drop off HOA notices. She'd stepped inside to use the restroom and was just coming down the hallway when Aubrey spoke. She paused just slightly by the archway. Our eyes met for a moment too long. She heard it. She heard everything. After they left, I walked the house in silence. It didn't feel like my home anymore. It felt like a set. A place I was being slowly erased from while still inside. But now, I had a line. A fault line. She slipped. And she didn't even notice. I went to the drawer. The archive. I pulled out the newest napkin, the one she dropped at lunch, creased, barely folded, like her words. I unfolded it, pressed it flat, laid it across the countertop like a flag that no longer flew. Then I wrote a new note. Date, Thursday. Event, lunch. Line, he should just move the paperwork to my name. Witness, Eva, partial. Tone, casual, confident, mistake. I folded the paper carefully. Once, twice. Filed it under contingency. That night, I dreamt of ink bleeding through paper, of my name disappearing stroke by stroke while someone else smiled over the contract. When I woke, I brewed tea. No sugar, just clarity. I changed the linens in the guest room that morning. Not because anyone was coming, not because it needed doing, but because I needed to. The bed still had the floral quilt Jason picked out with me at the craft fair when he was 14, back when he thought patterns were decisions worth making. Back when he saw me as someone who curated a life, not just maintained it. I stripped it all down, sheet by sheet, layer by layer. I folded each one carefully, even the pillowcases, and placed them in the laundry basket like offerings. Then I reached into the hallway cabinet. The good set, pale blue, high thread count, still smelled faintly of lavender from the sachet drawer I kept sealed for company. Only this time, the company I was preparing for was the past, not the future. I dressed the bed with precision, corners tucked, pillows fluffed, edges aligned, the way I used to do when Jason was little and scared of storms, when making the room perfect meant making the world less so. I placed the folded blanket across the end of the bed. Neat, weighted, secure. On the nightstand, I set a single frame, Jason's high school photo, the one where his smile was real and teeth were crooked. I hadn't displayed it in years. Aubrey thought it was dated. It's not ham-formated now. It's now using fried hams to accrued it. That was the word she used. I think what she meant was untouched by her, which is precisely why I put it back. I opened the closet and removed the suitcase she'd left behind. Aubrey kept things here, though she claimed they didn't matter. Extra heels, a blazer, an unopened bottle of her vitamin powder, like she assumed the space was hers by proximity. I placed the suitcase by the hallway door. Not outside. Just moved. Not a threat, a suggestion. Later that day, Jason stopped by. I didn't tell him about the suitcase. I didn't mention the new linens. He noticed anyway. He paused by the guest room, looked inside. His gaze settled on the photo. "Haven't seen that in a while," he said. I smiled. Felt like it belonged. He didn't argue, didn't step inside. But he didn't turn away either. We had tea in the kitchen. Quiet, like we used to. No phone buzzes, no Aubrey texting from the car, no apologies coded in shrugs. Just steam between us, and silence that didn't feel empty. Before he left, he stood near the hallway again. His eyes flicked to the suitcase. He didn't ask, but he looked, and I let him. After he left, I opened the archive drawer. Logged nothing. Some actions don't need to be written. They're remembered in fabric, in space, in the way you prepare a room not for a guest, but for a return. Later that evening, I unfolded the lavender sachet from the cabinet, pressed it between my hands, let the scent rise. Then I placed it under the pillow, just in case. Jason came by again on a Tuesday, unannounced. He used to do that all the time. Back when his visits were instinct, not obligation. He walked into the living room like he was measuring something. His eyes scanned the shelves, the sideboard, the walls. Not quickly. Like something was tugging at him, a thread he couldn't quite catch. "What happened to the photo?" he asked. I knew which one he meant. The silver-framed picture from his college graduation, the one where he stood between me and his father, one arm over each shoulder, sun in his eyes, tassel crooked, smile too wide. The only photo Aubrey ever quietly turned face down when she dusted. "It cracked," I said. He frowned. "Oh. Then, you have another copy, right?" I didn't answer. Not because I didn't, but because that wasn't the question he meant. He looked at the spot on the mantel where it used to sit. That stretch of wood looked emptier now, lighter, like it had never held anything meaningful at all. I offered him tea. He said no. "Too warm for tea," he said, but he stayed. He walked through the house like someone moving through a place they dreamed about, not sure what was real, what had changed. His gaze paused at the hallway closet. The door was ajar. Inside, the linens were neatly stacked, organized. His hand hovered, but didn't touch. "You ever think about moving?" he asked. It sounded casual, but it wasn't. I smiled. "I think about rearranging." He looked at me then, eyes narrowing slightly, not in suspicion, in recognition. Like he was remembering I used to say that when he was a child, when things were hard, when the world spun too fast. "Don't panic, Jason. We rearrange. We don't remove." He stepped into the kitchen. Sat in the chair he always used as a boy. The legs still creaked the same way. "Everything smells the same," he said. I didn't reply. Because it wasn't a compliment, it was a confirmation of guilt. That things hadn't changed, and yet he had. "You and Aubrey," I began. He sighed before I finished. "She's trying." Trying what? To own? To erase? To inherit something not yet past? But I didn't ask. Instead, I handed him a cloth freshly washed, folded, soft, the kind I always used on his knees when he fell as a boy. He held it for a second, then set it down. "She said you've been going through things. Patterly pays for costed at very marit. It's speed of flast to the posters." His voice was careful. I nodded. "Things have been going through me for a while. I thought I'd return the visit." He blinked, didn't ask what I meant, didn't want to. Before he left, he paused at the mantel again. His hand hovered over the empty space. He didn't say anything, but his fingers twitched just once, like they were searching for something that used to be there. After the door closed, I returned to the sideboard, opened the drawer beneath the missing photo's usual place. There it was, still framed, still intact, hidden in full view. I held it for a moment, not with sadness, with calculation. Because removing something isn't the same as losing it. Sometimes you remove something to test who notices. Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't say a word. I placed the frame back inside, closed the drawer, folded the cloth he didn't use, slid it into the archive beside the others. Later that night, Jason sent a message. "Sorry if today was weird. I just felt like stopping by." I didn't respond, but I marked the day, because that was the first time he noticed something was missing, and cared. It was a warm morning, just breezy enough for the sheets to lift and flap like soft flags. I was outside by the line, pinning up the last of the cotton napkins. The ones from the archive had been washed. A ritual, not a reset. One by one, I clipped them to the cord. Edges aligned, color graded. I don't fold when things are wet. I hang. I let the air hold them first. Aubrey stepped into the yard like it belonged to her, which, legally, it didn't. But emotionally, well, she'd been trying. She wore sunglasses and heels. To the backyard, on a Tuesday. She held her phone up like a camera, scanning the line of cloth with mock awe. "Well," she said, loud enough for the neighbors to hear, "the Vintage Museum is open early today. Where Fallender's not common." Behind her, Eva stood holding a cup of coffee HOA clipboard tucked under one arm. The same Eva who had once brought me a card after my husband's funeral. Today, she just smiled politely. A second too long. Aubrey walked toward the line. "What's this one?" she asked, fingering a pale blue napkin. "Is this from the Roosevelt administration?" There were chuckles. Not full laughter, just enough air to seal the moment. She pulled one off the line, let it flap like a flag in her hand. "Don't worry, old lady, I'll help." She tossed it, aiming for the basket. Missed. It landed on the grass, damp, dirty, disrespected. The air got thinner. Even the breeze paused. I didn't speak. I bent, picked up the cloth, and held it between my fingers, not like a servant, but like someone handling something sacred. I walked it back to the line, clipped it higher than before, tighter. Then I turned, looked straight at Aubrey. "I don't fold for applause," I said. Just that. No raised voice. No tremor. Just a line louder than her laugh. Aubrey blinked, scoffed. "What's that supposed to mean?" Eva looked away. The other neighbor, the one who'd stopped to tie her shoe at the gate, kept watching. I returned to my basket. Kept hanging. Steady hands, steady silence. Not submission. Instruction. Later that day, I opened the drawer. Added the napkin she threw. Washed again. Refolded. Edges smoothed. Wrote a note. Date. Thursday. Event. Laundry line. Quote, "Vintage Museum is open early. Action. Tossed cloth. Witnesses. Eva, neighbor, gate." I folded the paper and slid it into a new file tab. Line crossed. That evening, Jason texted again. "Heard something happened with Aubrey and the neighbor? You okay?" So he'd heard, but not from me. I replied, "All clean here." She just dropped a line. He didn't answer after that. The next morning, I found Eva's coffee cup on the fence post. She'd forgotten it. I left it there. Let the sun bleach the ceramic. Let time write on it. Not everything needs to be returned. That night, I made myself a cup of tea. Lavender. No sugar. Folded a cloth across my lap, and smiled. He showed up with no warning. Again. But this time, he wasn't pretending to drop by. This time, he looked like someone who'd forgotten how to walk into a home he once belonged to. I was in the kitchen, folding dishcloths. He stood by the doorway, not crossing the tile line. His hands hung uselessly by his sides. "Do you have any of that lemon tea?" he asked. He hadn't asked for tea in years. I nodded, turned, put the kettle on without a word. We didn't speak while it boiled, didn't speak while it steeped. I set the table with 2 cups, the porcelain ones, blue-rimmed, slight chip on the edge of his. I kept that one on purpose, because it's the one he always used. He didn't pick it up right away, just stared at it, like the chip might explain something. Then, finally, I saw the deed. I said nothing. He sipped once, then again, faster. Like he needed the heat to force words out. Aubrey, she asked me to transfer the house. My throat didn't tighten. My pulse didn't rise. I already knew. But now he said it, which meant he knew I knew. I told her it was complicated, that we should wait. But he stopped, looked down into the tea. I didn't stop her, Mom. I just didn't sign anything. Yet. That word. Yet. A wedge. A window. A warning. He pressed his palms flat to the table. She makes everything feel like an emergency, like if I don't agree, I'm failing her. He exhaled. But this house, it was never hers to claim. The room didn't feel warm, despite the tea. The silence wasn't heavy, it was balanced. He filled it. I held it. "I remember the day you bought those cups," he said suddenly. "You let me pick the color. Dad wanted green. I said blue felt cleaner." I smiled, faintly. "Because you were obsessed with oceans," I said. He chuckled, but it broke halfway. "God, I forgot that." He picked up the cup, traced the chip with his thumb. "Do you hate me?" I looked at him fully. "No." I let the words sit. "But I remember." That answer cracked him. He blinked fast, like he was trying to hold something in. But tears have their own gravity, and memory pulls hard when guilt has nowhere else to go. She said if we just streamline everything, it would be easier. Fewer taxes, cleaner titles, all that legal talk. She made it sound like I was just fixing a formality. His voice dropped. "But it felt like stealing." He looked at me again. "I didn't want to hurt you. I just kept postponing the confrontation." "That is the confrontation," I said. "The postponing." We sat there in it. Steam between us. History beside us. The cup between his hands. "You know," I said quietly, "I've folded a cloth every day for the last 3 months, sometimes twice, always one more than I need." He didn't respond, just nodded slowly, like he understood it wasn't a confession, it was a warning. "You're not late yet," I said finally. "But timing is a kind of love, too." He stayed for another 20 minutes. Didn't speak much. Just sat in the chair he once wobbled loose with his sneakers, sipped tea from the chipped rim, and left his cup unwashed on the table. The first time in years. I didn't clean it. I didn't move it. I let it sit. Because sometimes a dirty cup says more than 1,000 words. That night, I opened the archive drawer. Didn't add a napkin. But I added a new note. Date, Sunday. Event, Jason visit. Quote, "Do you hate me?" Object, chipped cup, left unwashed. Witness, none private confession. Status, undecided. Then I folded the paper. 3 times. Filed it under possibility. Hapster. The brunch was Aubrey's idea. Another neighborhood showcase, she called it. Eva agreed, though she never hosted. She just liked her name on things. This time, Aubrey insisted it be at our house. "It's your turn," she'd said to Jason, loudly enough for me to hear. "Not ours, yours." I let her decorate, let her choose the tablecloths, let her direct the catering team like they were her backup dancers. I watched. From the side, from the shadows, from where women take inventory. The guests began arriving just after 11. I served coffee. Soft cloths folded over my arm, as always. Not because I had to, because this time I wanted them to see. Aubrey flitted from group to group, all polished charm and curated laughter. She wore white. Again. The same shade as the napkins. The same color I used to starch for Easter dinners she never attended. Eva stood by the hydrangeas with 3 other board members. Jason poured drinks. His hands trembled just slightly when he passed me the pitcher. Then, it happened. One guest, a younger wife from 2 streets over, accidentally dropped her glass. It splashed onto Aubrey's shoes, barely touched her. But Aubrey turned sharp, loud, theatrical, and pointed. To me. "Oh my God, can we get a towel?" she said. "Marjorie's the queen of cloth. She probably has 50 pressed ones hidden in her shrine." The laughter didn't come as fast this time. Not as full. Someone coughed. Someone else whispered. I stepped forward, calm, clean, and handed her a napkin, folded once, then unfolded, and held flat. "Here," I said, "use this one. It's from the archive." Aubrey hesitated, then took it, snatched more than accepted, wiped her heel with exaggerated disdain. "See?" she said to the circle. "Told you she's got a whole museum." Then she tossed the cloth toward the garden bed. It landed in the soil. The air shifted. Small, but final. Eva stepped forward. "Actually," she said, voice level, "that napkin belonged to the Collins wedding set. Marjorie hand-stitched the border. I remember." A silence deeper than tension settled in. Aubrey's smile cracked. Jason stopped moving entirely. I turned, picked up the napkin from the soil, brushed the edge. Then in full view, I unfolded it completely, laid it flat across the table in front of me. Next to the pitcher, next to the vase, visible, open. Every guest watched. I didn't need to say anything, because the cloth said it all. "You tried to stain me, but you forgot who wove the threads." Jason cleared his throat. "Aubrey, maybe you should apologize." She laughed too sharp. "For what? It's a rag." And that was it. The break. The moment that showed everyone exactly who she was when they were looking. I didn't move. But Eva did. She turned to me. "We've got the HOA vote next month," she said. "I think it's time we nominated you for event co-chair. You know how to host with history." She smiled, real, not polite. Several guests nodded. Even the quiet ones. Aubrey blinked. The crowd had shifted. And she hadn't noticed when. Jason looked at me. No words. Just the expression he wore when he realized something couldn't be undone. Not by apology. Not by time. That evening, after they left, I took the stained napkin. I didn't wash it. I folded it as is. The soil still faint on the edge. Wrote my final ledger note. Date, Saturday. Event, HOA brunch. Quote, "It's a rag." Witnesses, Eva, 12 guests. Action, public discard of heirloom. Response, none. Required. I filed it. Under closure. The call came on a Monday, late morning. Just as I was finishing the last batch of folded linens. The number was local. Unfamiliar. "This is Denise Weber, calling on behalf of Collins Family Estate," the voice said. "Just confirming the deed has officially been filed. The title now rests with Marjorie Elaine Collins, sole holder." I didn't speak for a moment. Not because I was surprised, but because silence has always been how I mark completion. "Would you like a certified copy, mailed or emailed?" she asked. "Both," I said. Then, "Paper lasts longer." I hung up, folded the final napkin, pressed it flat. No need to log it, because this one would never be archived. It would be displayed. Jason came later that week. He didn't bring coffee or excuses. He stood by the kitchen island like someone re-entering a childhood dream with adult shame. "She knows," he said. I nodded. "She said you tricked me." Another nod. "She said you're petty, that you're holding onto a house no one wants." I looked him in the eye. "And yet, you filed it." He swallowed hard. Didn't blink. "She didn't understand it wasn't about the house." I poured us both tea. No sugar. He drank it all this time. Didn't leave the cup behind. Didn't take it with him either. Just rinsed it, dried it, placed it gently on the rack. The next day, Aubrey came. I didn't let her in. She knocked twice, then harder. Eventually, her voice cracked through the wood. "You really think this changes anything?" I didn't answer. "Because I don't speak through doors anymore." She left. Her heels clacked down the walkway like punctuation marks that couldn't decide the sentence. I went to the drawer, removed every napkin from the archive, unfolded each one. Laid them flat across the table, a cloth ledger of memory, disrespect, survival. Then I selected one. The very first. The one from the brunch. The one she called quaint. I placed it inside a new frame. Glass front, white border, centered. Beneath it, I added a label, the kind used in museums. Legacy, hand-folded resistance, 2025. I hung it in the hallway, not visible from the foyer, but anyone going further, anyone staying, would see it. That night, I lit a single candle. Not for ritual. For reflection. I brewed tea. 1 cup, unfolded a napkin, pressed it across my lap, and watched the flame dance. Not in celebration, but in confirmation.